Are you tired of hearing mental health from a superficial view and want to hear about realistic views? Well, you come to the right place, a space where healing is central, but also normalized. Your hosts, Danica and Myra, who are in the mental health field, will explore topics that help promote healing in your everyday life. Through our podcast, you will get the real and the work to focus on your healing. Welcome to Black Women Healing Podcast.
Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Black Women's Healing Pod. Today we have Khadijat as our guest. Khadijat is from Sober Black Girls, but before we get into her introduction, I'm going to do a discussion question. So, are you ready?
Yes, hopefully I am.
I'm making you chime in too. So, this question is around Black History Month. Who do you look to in Black history as a role model and why?
In Black history, right now, I'm really navigating towards Jada Pinkett Smith. And I hope that doesn't sound too, I don't know, like arbitrary, but I just like really commend her for one, getting sober and living her best life. And I say that for a number of things, for a number of reasons, excuse me. I think that like I realized I had like a drinking problem. I had a problem once I became an attorney to the bar. I passed the bar, got my apartment, I got my car, blah, 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 blah. And I think that, perfectionism, a sense of tokenism, and just trying to like live my best life really like drug me into like, I guess like drinking excessively. And for the fact that like she was a celebrity, I'm pretty sure a lot of celebrities have problems with substances. We see people dying in and out constantly. And the fact that she's a celebrity with tons of money, but was still able to realize her worth and get sober, and at the same time create a platform for other folks, focusing on struggles, daily life struggles. I just commend her. I look up to her so much because I can tell that she's, from one sober girl to another, I can tell that she's really worked for the life that she has. To be rich and famous is one thing, but to be happy and happy with yourself, happy with your life, and to be making an active change is definitely another thing. And I can tell that she has worked towards that. So she's definitely someone I look up to, and she's Black, and I just love her.
I love her too. I especially like how she's done that work to, like with women that she used to kind of beef with. Like even like her silent beef that she talked about, how she's really worked toward redefining sisterhood and what that looks like. And she like really, really tries to push that agenda of, sisterhood is important and these are the reasons why. So I love Red Table Talk. Danica, who's your person?
I would say my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. So like my grandmother, today's her birthday too. Happy birthday, Granny.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
She's been through so much. She's one of those women you be talking to and she'd be like, oh yeah, that happened to me. Like it's just so many things that she's been through in her life. Like she's lost kids and like drug addict. It's just so much, y'all. And it's just like you would never be able to know just because she words it so well and she's so positive. Like that is what I aspire to be. I think to understand that life has continuous obstacles and that you can't let it like drag you down. And you just got to keep going. That's what she always said. I'm like, Granny, how did you get through it? Like, tell me, how did you do it? And she'd be like, I don't know. I just kept going. Like, y'all,
I love
that is my hero, my shero.
I love it. That's amazing. I love hearing about grandmas. All right.
What about you, Myra? Hold on, Myra.
Hold on. My person. Well, I have two people. So maybe you don't know my person.
I think I know your person already.
Who's my person?
Maya Angelou.
Yes. Definitely. But in effort to talk about somebody who's not as famous, I'll say my person is Mary McLeod Bethune. I love that she had her hand in like everything. Yeah, she literally had her hand in like everything, like politics, education, sisterhood. I think she's the embodiment of somebody I kind of aspire to be like. Yeah, she's just dope all around. Like I could go on and on about her, but she's amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so today's guest is Khadijat. Khadijat is a lawyer and creator of Sober Black Girls Club blog. She created Sober Black Girls Club blog in October 2018 after noticing her own struggles with alcohol and the lack of digital support for Black women working towards sobriety. Since then, Khadijat has continued to provide consistent content through her blog to support and join Black women on sobriety and overall life struggles. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me. This is so amazing. I'm happy.
Absolutely. So we're going to get right into it. So, Khadijat, describe how you began to find your passion for substance use and sobriety in Black girls and women.
Okay, so it was October 2018, and I have like 5 best friends. There's like 5 of us, and I kept on saying to myself, I'm a Cancer. I'm emotional. I kept on like using my characteristics. Wait, what are your signs?
I'm a Taurus.
Oh, my best friend is Taurus, and that's my moon sign. I love Tauruses.
Yeah, we get along good.
Yeah,
I'm a Capricorn.
Oh, my other best friend's Capricorn, and I love Capricorn. They're a little too serious for me, but they're really good people. Oh, so I love you ladies already. So yeah, I kept on blaming like all our arguments and fights on like I'm just sensitive, and they're just like, and I remember it was October, I think it was Halloween, or maybe a little after Halloween, I don't remember. It was maybe a little before Halloween. We went to a Halloween party in Manhattan, and again, I was drinking, and again, I got into a fight with my best friends, and this resulted with us, not physical, but this resulted with us not speaking for months. This resulted in us them leaving me feeling like betrayed, blah, 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 blah. And I just had to come to the realization that every time I drink, there is an issue. There is a problem. There is a fight. And that's just not normal. So I started to look online clearly. At that point, I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I just think that maybe I needed to cut back on drinking. And I just started looking online for support. Mm-hmm. And all of the online resources, I found one Black blog online, but it hadn't been updated since 2016. I can't remember even the name. It hadn't been updated since like 2016, I believe. And I just realized that, wow, I can't, like, there's no stories online that talks about sobriety in the Black community. A lot of the blogs that I found were talking about girls who were out partying and drinking too much. And girls who, like, were talking about they grew up in this neighborhood, a neighborhood that didn't look like mine, and their parents were alcoholic, and then that's why they started drinking, and this and that and this and that. And I just couldn't relate. Like I come from a really strict Muslim home. I didn't start drinking until I went to college, which in my brain was a reasonable time to drink, but to start drinking. But then I learned that the disease of alcoholism doesn't care if you're Muslim, doesn't care if you're smart, doesn't care if you're Black, doesn't care if you're A, B, and C. It gets who it gets. So that's what inspired me. I think that's was your question. I'm sorry, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but that's what inspired me to start Sober Black Girls Club, because when I was looking online for resources, for support, I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anyone who looked like me. I couldn't find anyone who related to my story. Like, I didn't start drinking because I wanted to have a good time at the age of 14. That wasn't my story at all. So that's what helped me, or I guess encouraged me to create Sober Black Girls Club, so I can connect and really connect with other girls who look like me and who go through similar things as I did.
I love hearing that you like did that, just because I think about like when we see a need for something, especially if it's something that even like we're needing, sometimes we don't have the courage to actually follow through and do it. And so if you don't have that courage, there's other people just like you that are looking for, this help, and they're not going to get it, right? But for you, you knew that you needed the help, and because you made that, now other people who also need the help can connect. So it's great that like you are a resource and that you exist.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Khadijat, how do you feel about the impact of your blog, Sober Black Girls Club, has had on the community so far?
Honestly, when oh my gosh, I'm gonna be so honest. I won't even get into names, but when my second year of law school, I received a really popular scholarship, whatever, from someone of notoriety, let's say that, and somehow that person came. Oh, okay. So basically, after I graduated law school, I made a commitment to go back and serve, I guess, the community that gave me the scholarship. But because I was, at that time, I didn't know that I was really facing addiction and really struggling. I didn't know what I was going through. I kind of isolated myself. So I wouldn't answer emails. I wouldn't answer anything. And this year, I think like in December, Jen, I don't remember when, but she reached out to me asking me if I'm coming again, if I'm coming to this event this year, because I haven't been for the past 2 years. I think I graduated law school in 2017, and since I graduated law school, I have not been to that event. And I told her, I just was honest with her, and I told her what I was going through, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there this year. I'm fine. I'm sober. I can go. And I sent her the link to my blog. And she basically told me that, like, oh, her father was an alcoholic. And I just was like, what? Like, this problem, this disease is so prevalent in our community than we think. We just don't talk about it. We just don't. And it's so crazy. Like, she was telling me that now that she's read my blog, she feels like she has, that's why she stayed away from alcohol, because of her father, who was also a public figure, just as she is a public figure, suffered from alcoholism. And I told her, I said, listen, if I would have come across your story about your father, that would have gave me hope. It would have gave me some type of guidance that I didn't need to do A, B, and C. I didn't need to drink to solve my problems. I didn't need to do, I would have felt inspired. So I'm just so happy that girls, people in general, men follow my blog too, which is great. It's cool. They just understand that this is not a you problem. This is a we problem. This is something that we're all facing. I don't care how religious, I don't care how perfect your family is. This is something that everyone faces. So when I get those emails, when I get those ads on social media, I'm 17 days sober, I'm 16 days sober, 2 days sober, I feel so happy, because we need to normalize it. There's nothing wrong with getting sober. There's nothing wrong with understanding that, you may have an issue, whether you're an alcoholic or you just have a drinking problem, which there is a difference. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that you may be depressed. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that you may have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Yeah. And the more we talk about it, and we have blogs about it, we have podcasts about it, the more we normalize it, and girls are going to be more willing, people in general, to ask for help if they know it's normal.
Exactly. Ooh, thank you for sharing that. We need to hear that. What are your thoughts on the history of substances in the Black community, specifically Black women?
All right. So I did write notes. I can ramble. I try not to ramble.
Oh, ramble away.
I think that being a woman is difficult in society. Acknowledge that. We do the same work as men. We work twice as hard as men, and not for nothing. I mean, I'm just saying this next part. I don't have any scientific proof, but we're kind of smarter than men. I'm sorry, we just are. Like, it's just what it is. Like, we're smarter than men. We work harder. I know there's a statistic about us having or creating more businesses than men. We're overachievers because we realize that we have more to prove. So just to think about being a woman and how hard that is, to now add being a Black woman, and to understand how even more difficult that is, with facing prejudice and racism and violence in the workplace, in homes, in schools, etc., etc., etc. And at the same time, thinking about our connection with the medical or the medical community, how often in the past doctors have, I guess, diagnosed us wrongly, or misdiagnosed us, may have called us bipolar when really we were just maybe having a depressive episode or something like that. Just constant misdiagnosis. When you think about the systematic things that we face, and then our trust issues with doctors and hospitals, then there's alcohol, then there's drugs, where we use to self-medicate. And I think that that's where the what was the question? The history between
you own it. Yep, the history. Yep, you got it.
I gotta make sure I'm staying on topic, because I know I do tend to ramble. When we talk about the history between like Black women
in the Black community,
with alcohol, it's just eeasier. It's simple. It's so easy, and you don't have to pay a fortune to get a bottle of alcohol. Maybe $10, $5. You get I don't know how much beer costs, but I know a lot of people like beer. That's $3, $4. It's so easy to self-medicate, and that's what we do. I don't think that it's abnormal. I think that when we look at ourselves in comparison to non-Black people, they do it too, but it's just so normalized. Because it's just what they do. But being Black folks, being especially Black women, we have to look a certain way. We don't want our employers to think that we're weak. We don't want to look like bums. We don't want to look like what you imagine alcoholic to look like. It was so hard for me to realize that I had an alcohol problem, because I had a job. I didn't look like what I thought an alcoholic would look like. So it was so hard. Do you guys watch Shameless?
Yes.
It's a lot of seasons.
I love Shameless.
What's the father's name?
Babe, what's the father's name of Shameless?
No, but what's his name?
Frank.
Frank. Yes. Yeah. Okay, that in my head, when I used to think of an alcoholic, it would be Frank.
No.
Someone who's so ridiculous. So when you put all those factors in together, it's just like, having a glass of wine, it's just so much easier than going to see a doctor, talking about your issues, talking about depression, talking about anxiety. But at the same time, if you always need that glass of wine to function, that's an issue. Your glass of wine, I'm not against alcohol. I tell people all the time, if I could just have one glass, I would drink. Of course, it's so much fun. But the fact is that I can't just have one glass. One glass leads to another glass, and leads to another glass, and then it leads to me not waking up for work. It leads to A, B, and C. And if that sounds like you, then that's a problem. But if it doesn't sound like you, and you're just having that one glass, or whatever, that one glass a night, I know people do that one glass to unwind a night, okay, great. Or you go out with your friends, and then maybe that one time a week, great. But if you're drinking to the point, or to the fact where you can't stop, that's an issue. And that's different than just, socially drinking and, having just fun. Yeah.
Hey, it's most definitely deep. I like the fact that you said that, like, how easy it is, so it's like, instead of me having to go to therapy, or even having to talk to somebody about what I'm going through, I'd rather just drink. Like, I can do that by myself. I can do it with people too. And it's like you say, you can go to the liquor store and get something for $3-4, maybe even cheaper. Or even if you're around other people who are drinking more, they probably paying for it. So you really don't have to pay for nothing, especially, you go to the club or whatever, you have people pay for your drinks.
Yeah.
So, hey, you most definitely pointed out some cool points. So our next question is, what are the main substances you notice Black women using and or abusing?
I don't want, since I created my blog, I've come across a lot of women who use different substances, which is perfectly normal. You're going to use what you have the resources or the funds to afford. So if you're a doctor, you know, you're not just if you're a doctor, you're more susceptible. You're more susceptible to maybe using higher end drugs because you can afford them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you can afford something, you're going to use it. But again, like we just stated, alcohol is so cheap.
Yeah.
It's so cheap. So I don't want to put out the narrative that Black women don't use certain drugs, and not to shame anyone, but just so whoever's listening to this blog, to this podcast, you're not alone. Like just because you use a certain substance that you've never heard anyone else use, it's probably because you can afford it. I know at a certain point I was using certain things, and because I could afford it, and like it felt good at that time.
Even with the alcohol, like the type of alcohol you buy, if you can afford like the more top tier, you are paying for that, right? Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. So it's like even I do attend certain types of meetings that they like to keep anonymous. Great. And you know they'll talk about like full locals. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, what is that? What is the full local? And I've had a full local in high school before, or it was high school, yeah. I did have a one full local. It was my last year of high school before I was going to college. We were on a beach in Staten Island. And again, that's when I started drinking, like when I was going to college, like that college era. I remember it was my birthday, July, and I was like, this is disgusting. This is gross. So as an adult, you would never hear me buying a full local. And when I'm at these meetings, people talking about full locals and beers. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's disgusting. That is gross. That is nasty as hell. But you're gonna, you know, and I always tell people, if you're an addict, you're an addict. You're gonna use or pick up wherever you can. But if you can't afford certain things, then you're probably just gonna, you know, stick to a certain type of drug, or like just maybe beers. Like I know a lot of people drink beers. I don't understand that. I never drink a beer. I don't like beers. I like the expensive stuff, like Ciroc. Like and like Moet, like expensive things. I don't do that. So honestly, I don't want to create this stigma that like, you know, a certain group of people use certain things. In my opinion, from what I see and what I've seen in these meetings from the people who follow me, my followers, you use whatever you can afford. And if you can afford something, you're going to get it. Like you're going to get the best of that. And if you can't afford it, like Frank, you're going to Frank from Shameless, you get on my nerves, but you're going to use, like, you're going to drink beer and stuff, like Four Locals and things, which is okay too, I guess. I don't know. I don't like that stuff.
I think that breakdown is important just because I'm thinking about, like here in San Diego, meth is really big. And where I'm from, meth is not as, I mean, meth, of course, you hear about meth, but I think San Diego was like #1 in the world for a while for meth. And so it makes more sense because I've been meeting a lot of like teenagers that I ask them, what's your first drug of like the first drug you've ever used? And where I'm from, people usually say weed, but here it's more so meth. And so I think that because it's so big here, they're having more access to it, right? Because that's what they're being exposed to. So I think that makes sense the way that you're breaking it down.
Yeah, it's really what you have access to. So it's like I'm probably saying, I mean, whatever, like just be transparent. I remember I did my first line of coke in Miami. I went to Miami and I was like, okay, this is actually, you know, this is fun. But I wasn't doing, like when I came back to New York, I wasn't doing, it's what you have access to. It's like in Miami, coke is big.
It's very big, yeah.
Yeah. They love coke. And you know, when I came back, it was out of sight, out of mind, because it's not what's big and from where I was from.
Right.
And with meth and like heroin, I don't have a lot of information on those things because it's not something that I use or was ever interested in. But again, like if I ever had one of, I don't know if you call it a hit or whatever, maybe I would have been addicted to it, because I truly feel like if you have an addictive personality, you're going to use whatever makes you happy or keeps you from hitting that low. But because meth and heroin I think crack is heroin, right? So because
No, crack is like cocaine. It's based off a cocoa leaf. I believe that's what it's called. So heroin is something different, I
It's
believe.
different. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of information on those three, but because those three things weren't something that I saw people use, it wasn't like it wasn't in my
You're
realm.
not exposed to it.
Exactly. So you're gonna use whatever if you're an addict, or if you having a problem, having a drinking problem or substance problem is one thing. But if you're an addict, which means that if you're using a substance that constantly makes your life worse, but you cannot stop using that substance, that means you're an addict. So whether if it's alcohol, weed, if you're smoking, if you have a court case and you constantly need to get tested for marijuana, but you are smoking marijuana every day because you can't stop, even though it's putting your life in jeopardy, you're an addict. And that's the difference between a problem smoker, user, or maybe a social user. So a social user and an addict. The addict is when your life is in shambles, your life is a mess, but you cannot stop using whatever it is that's making your life a mess. Whether you lost a job, you lost your kids, you can't afford rent, you're behind on your bills, that's when you have to kind of get into the realm of addiction. That's when it's not just a problem, it's like you're an addict. So yeah, I think that honestly, if you're an addict, whatever you have access to, you're gonna use. If I had access to crack, meth, heroin, I don't know, like I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I'm pretty sure I probably would have been addicted to those things. But I didn't have access to that. I didn't know anyone who did that stuff. That wasn't just it wasn't in my community, it wasn't in my realm. Alcohol was in my realm, and even like yeah, basically.
Absolutely. Thank you for being vulnerable and kind of sharing with us some of like your thoughts around, that the fact that it's not that we can't even say that Black women are only using one substance. Black women are using different types of substances. It depends on your environment. It depends on what you have access to, for sure. So next question is, can you give us a few examples of predisposed factors leading to substance struggles?
I think there's a lot. There's again racism, prejudice, and I think that we often ignore. When I think about my parents, and again, my parents, they never even drank alcohol. They're just like really like my mom went to Hajj like 3 times. She wears a hijab, blah blah blah. But when I think about like our parents and how hard they had to work, how much they have to suffer as immigrants, like coming here, working twice as hard for lower pay, being looked down upon. How are you not supposed to feel some type of void, and how are you not supposed to like want some type of outlet? And I'm so happy, and I'm so like grateful for our generation that we're making mental health a thing nowadays. But we know that mental health was not a thing, especially during that time. They didn't really care about how they felt. They just did what they had to do. They worked 10 jobs. They took care of grandkids. They took care of their kids. They did what they had to do just to survive, because a lot of them didn't even feel that they belonged in this country. And that's just immigrants. What about the Black folks who were born in America due to slavery? The type of feelings that they must have felt, the type of feelings that they feel today, just feeling unappreciated, unwanted. How are you supposed, and at the same time, not trusting the government, not trusting doctors, not trusting white psychiatrists and this and that? How are you, how are you supposed to fill that void? You're going to fill that void with a substance, and that's what normally happens. So I do definitely blame racism, poverty, sexism. I blame, basically those factors in work, school, homes, violence, domestic violence, tokenism. I know that was my issue. I know I drank in high school, but I was abusing alcohol once I graduated from law school. I moved back to New York City, And I wasn't used to like the work home life. I was used to like going to school, having people praise me. I was used to like getting scholarships and awards, and I was used to like making a change and just feeling like getting compliments on top of compliments. And I didn't realize that tokenism, and I didn't realize that perfectionism was a thing. So I started going into counseling and really realizing that me wanting to be praised by other people was an issue for me, which led me to continuously drink. So there's and again, that's due to what? White supremacy. Like, who am I really looking towards for compliments and awards? My dean, my principal, my teacher. Again, white supremacy and tokenism and perfectionism. And again, police brutality is another issue. Another issue I would think is incarceration. There's tons of issues and factors that contribute to drinking.
Definitely. We have about 6 more minutes left, but we have a question that we have to ask.
Okay.
Do you think there's a correlation between mental health and substance abuse disorders?
Yes, and I'll answer that in 30 seconds.
Okay.
It's not directly related.
Okay.
But I think that when people don't understand, just example to answer this question, you feeling depressed, you may drink, you may use, and they may take away that feeling for a bit. But once the drug has like worn down, or the alcohol has worn down, what is the withdrawals is anxiety and depression. So basically you're adding more depression, anxiety to your brain, to your chemical makeup, by using and drinking. So it's not directly related, but people need to understand that if you're feeling depressed and or anxious, drinking is not the answer. You're just going to feel more depressed, more anxious right after that high or that buzz comes down. That's the only thing that's going to happen. So what is the answer is going to see a therapist and getting professional help.
Yes. So our last question, which we ask all our guests, is do you have any takeaways for our listeners?
Yeah, I do. And I actually wrote this down because I was like, I don't want to ramble. I'm sorry. Like, guys, I ramble a lot. I'm a Cancer.
No, it's good rambling, though. If it was like annoying rambling, you would tell by our faces. So you're good.
Okay. All right, I'm going to make this real quick. All right, so this is what I'm going to say. It's never too late to change. In the beginning, when I was trying to get sober, I kept on relapsing because in my head, I kept on thinking, okay, I'm always going to be a drunk. I'm always going to have this problem. I'm always going to be this and that. And what it is that we've allowed society to implant self-limiting ideas, I guess, in our brains that confuse us. And tell us if you're 50 years old, you're probably always going to be a drunk. Or if you haven't started acting since you were 20 or maybe like 18, 17, you can never be an actor. You can never get an Oscar, blah, blah, blah. And I just want you to know that those ideas are killing you. It's killing us, and it's stopping us from really truly living our real life. You're never too old. You're never too far enough to change. You can live your best life right here and right now by making that decision. And I used to think, because I'm so much of an intellect, that I used to think that I used to think that thinking came before actions. My addiction has taught me that actions bring out better thoughts. So even when I don't think, even when I'm thinking about alcohol, I'm thinking about doing A, B, and C, I'm thinking about not going to gym, I'm thinking about sleeping in. If I just get up and go to a meeting, go to work, not pick up a drink, that's basically helping to change my mindset.
Yeah.
But I used to never realize that. I used to be like, well, if my mind is saying A, B, and C, I'm just going to do it. No, your mind is a vessel on its own. And it just says a lot of shit that you probably don't even really want to do. I'm sorry, did I just curse on your podcast?
You absolutely can.
Okay, good. It tells us a lot of things. It tells us a lot of wrong things. I used to think that our mind was the strongest vessel. my addiction has taught me that the mind is really the weakest, one of the weakest vessels, and we have to work towards making it stronger. And the only way we can work towards making our mind stronger is by taking actions, little actions day by day. So that means going to one meeting a day. If that means going to the gym, waking up early, praying, meditating, if that means whatever, even if your mind is telling you not to do it, do it. And I promise you, in a week, in maybe 2 weeks, your mind is gonna tell you, girl, get up and go to that meeting. Girl, get up and go to that, to whatever, that class. Get up and pray. Get up and meditate. So that's my takeaway. You're never too old. It's never too late to change. And if you feel like that, it's just the disease of the mind telling us that. But in truth, you're never too old. It's never too late to be the person that you want to be.
Yes. And y'all heard it here first. The mind is one of the weakest vessels, and we have to work toward making it.
Hey, y'all. So I think that this subject is, something that the Black community does not talk about a lot. And I think in particular, even talking about it like for Black women. And I think that's why it was so important to have Khadijat on the podcast, because she has literally created an outlet for Black women and a resource for Black women to come and feel supported and not to feel alone when it comes to sobriety. And even when it just comes to, even if you are, like she said, even if you are drinking or whatever drug you're using, just being able to be mindful of how it's impacting you. So shout out to that. I do want to talk about like the fact that I guess for something that I think about in the Black community is just like, it's a liquor store on every corner and a church. I don't care what nobody says, that's true. Mm-hmm. Any so-called hood I ever been in, or even sometimes if it's not the hood, if it's a more like low-income community, start paying attention. It's a liquor store every corner, and it's a church on every corner too. So even that in itself is talking about your environment. If I live in a neighborhood that has a liquor store at the corner versus it has a wellness center, or it has a yoga studio, or it has a dance studio, like if I walk down the street, if I'm having a hard day and I'm coming home from work and that's the first thing I see, I'm probably more prone to go to that. I'm probably go get some alcohol or whatever. Even if you go get some alcohol, it's probably somebody selling drugs out there too. So there you go with that too. So like your environment plays a huge part of it, but then you also have a choice. So even if you live in that environment, you don't have to go to that liquor store. Maybe you can't go to the yoga studio in the corner, but maybe you can do yoga in your house. Maybe you can look up a YouTube video. We all got Wi-Fi, internet, and everything at this point. So like we have access to change our minds. We can't use that as an excuse all the time anymore. But that's my rant over.
That's definitely true. I mean, it's good to point that out. Coming from someone who grew up where everywhere all you see is liquor stores, I think it's relatable. So do you have anything you want to share for our listeners this week?
Excuse me. No, I think I mean obviously Black History Month is in February. I most definitely am an advocate of Black History Month is every month for me. Black History Month is every day. So if you on my social medias or anything, you're not gonna ever see me just focused on
born Black and I'm gonna die Black.
Blackity black black. Hey, y'all haven't heard that song? Go look up the song. I don't even know what it's called, but blackity black, but everything black, all black. Like so I feel like Black History Month is every day for me, and I feel like this month is awesome because it highlights it, but yeah, happy Black History Month, happy Black History Day, happy Black History Year, century, decade, life,
all your life.
What about you? What's coming up for you?
I found a book, and it's by Cheney Allen, and it's called I'm Black and I'm Sober, The Timeless Story of a Woman's Journey to Sanity. And it's an autobiography about a woman. She talks about like discrimination, like being a Black woman, also like her journey to sobriety. I also went to Barnes & Nobles today. I am that person. I go to Barnes & Nobles and I read the book there and I don't even buy it. But whatever, who cares? So anyway, I posted about it on our story today, but the book I read today is called Eloquent Rage, and it's by, let me look up her name, Brittany Cooper, and it's a really good book. It just talks about her journey with like having white friends, having black friends, and she really talked a lot about how, I don't know if you've noticed, but like black women are kind of put against each other. And so she kind of talks about how like you're kind of dumb if you think you don't need black women as your friends, being a black woman. And she really breaks it down, like the importance of that. I'm not gonna tell y'all the importance because you need to read the book. And then she also talks about her experience of having certain white women as friends, whether they were bad experiences or good experiences. And then she transitions into talking about her journey with becoming a feminist and what that looks like, because she's a black feminist, and she talks about what wave of feminism that she feels like she's a part of, where she kind of balances two of them. But again, I'm not gonna tell you all the details. You got to read the book. But yeah, it was a dope book. I literally sat in that bookstore with the whole thing. It was good.
The fact that you know all of this too, that is hilarious.
And then Barnes and Nobles is doing this thing where they're highlighting black books for the month, and there's this other book and it was a man on the cover, and I was like, what is this about? Because the other books didn't look that good, and I was like, they could have picked better books, but whatever. So anyway, the book is called No Ashes in the Fire, and it's about this man. His name is Darnell Moore. He's the author of the book, and it talks about how where he grew up, people bashed people who were gay, and so although he wasn't gay, some kids in his neighborhood tried to set him on fire. And then it's like a memoir where it talks about him trying to the people in the neighborhood trying to set him on fire as a kid, and how this transitions into his adulthood. In the book, when I tell you the first page, I was like, this is good. Like, it was a really good first page. The back of I couldn't read both books though. So I'm definitely going to order that book. It was pretty dope. I mean, I think the whole concept is pretty cool. So yeah, those are my books.
That's dope. All right. So when it comes to discounts, the discount is the discount is to come to Black Women's Healing Circle in San Diego. Okay. That's the discount. Like
we need the free game.
Right. That's free game. That's the tip. That's what they call it. That's the tip. So at this point, once this Black Women's Healing Pod is released, our Inglewood Circle would have already happened. So we know that's gonna be lit. So at this point, even if you are in Los Angeles, in any area you in, if you want to come to San Diego March 7th, please do. So March 7th, we will be having our circle in San Diego. Purchase your ticket. I think it's gonna be lit as well. So yeah, y'all have to come to our event.
All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Black Women's Healing Pod. Be sure to tune in next week for a new episode. Feel free to DM us with suggestions of episodes, questions that you have, or any other things that might, help our pod out. So we look forward to chatting with y'all again soon. All right.